Los latinos somos un popurrí, somos negros, somos indios, somos blancos, pero también somos de descendencia asiática. Mírenme, look around, it won't be hard to find us bailando, cantando, en las iglesias, en los negocios, en español y en inglés. These are the important stories that may not have been taught in school, but I'm about to educate you, so sit down, check it. My people have traversed through rocky lands, cloudy skies, angry seas, exclusionary acts across the country. To be here sin pena, sin vergüenza, con orgullo de progresar en las Américas. Y también tenemos mucho sabor, as I call it, that salvaje mindset, that dopeness. We've outlived hate, oppressive ideologies and regimes. We've thrived despite the obstacles and doubters. Wherever we may be, there is a Barrio Chino. When you see us, come in, have a seat, let's eat, let's talk. We feel just as comfortable breaking bread over un churrasco o un chow mein. Mi nombre es Armando. I'm a chef, author, a speaker, a businessman, but I'm most honored to be el hijo de Armando y Blanca. Pero today in Barrio Chino, I'm gonna be your guide. Síganme los lindos and gente fea, y'all welcome too.
Today, Chinese descendants form the majority of the Asian Latin American population. They are found in significant numbers across Latin America, including all of Latinidad. Many Latin American countries have established Chinatowns, aka Barrio Chinos, as a testament to their presence and cultural influence. Hugo, welcome back to Barrio Chino. I'm your host, Armando Tam. On today's episode, Preserving Heritage. We're going to explore the challenges faced and the triumphs won by the Latin Asian community in today's complex navigation of cultural identity and society. And on this episode, I'm breaking bread with businesswoman Jennifer Lam over some Chinese Latino concoctions, and we talked about how she leveraged overcoming some stereotypes to help inspire her in a positive journey in creating her own lane.
Más aceite, sin pena.
Sin pena.
So this is fideuá de camarón, que the cameraman was from Spain, so I was like, let me do a fideuá china. So I've never made this, but cooking is like art. If someone says create a song, if someone says paint a music, that a song or a paint that inspires you, you have to be able to. So let me see.
You're not gonna kill me because this time I put a little too much.
No, if not, we're gonna order DoorDash from you. So we're at home. Try it. Try it real quick. Falta limón.
Limón.
It needs more soy. Add more soy sauce.
Soy sauce.
You were mentioning your mother. At what point did you see her as a hero? At what age? You came at 8.
Yeah.
We dealt with the BS.
Right.
You know, I know my parents became heroes probably when I was 11 or 12. What about you?
So, you know, my mom became my shiro immediately.
Was your mom?
My mom.
Were you a mama's woman? Mama's girl?
Mom's girl, all the way.
What is it that you saw that your first, as an adult, saw, oh, my mom is a hero, shiro?
Well, basically looking at her and
Taste it.
and realizing that she had to go through a lot, right? Like not knowing the language, right? Being in a different environment altogether. Let's see how this is.
Yeah. Taste the ginger, the soy, right? So now
it's gonna be perfect.
Yeah, it's gonna be perfect because you made it. So she saw she was a shiro, and how did that inspire you as a young adult? Look at this. Doesn't it look beautiful?
Amazing. Wow.
Damn.
I can't wait to eat that.
If we weren't filming a show, I would be putting this on my Instagram reels. I'm just kidding. Entonces, she's a shiro. For me, my mother, while it's very typical in the Latino household que el hombre, whatever, right? My grandma always told me, mamá me dice, mira, el hombre es el que manda, pero siempre hay que respetar a su mujer.
Claro.
And my father was to the T all that. Siempre se termina con un poquito de sal. So I saw that, but I saw my mom working as an executive in an insurance firm, and then she had her own business. Right. My father worked in his 8 to 5, and then he had a contracting gig on the side. So in me, it was always
entrepreneurship
or to work hard. So this is one of my favorites. So right here we have a Chino Latino. This is egg foo young en la tortilla de camarón.
Okay.
And this is the delicious gravy. So people are working. They don't always have time to cook, but there's certain things to maintain. So that is going to be delicious. It's juicy. And now we're going to bring this. So let me ask you this. What was your first encounter of that you had to overcome de la gente que se burlaban que te parecías china?
Imagínate, te puedes imaginar. No, I'm distracted. Armando, I'm distracted.
Well, Cesar's keeping us on track. Cesar's keeping us on track. So this right here is congri, which is black beans and white rice. We grew up on gallo pinto. Dominicans grew up on arroz y habichuelas. Puerto Ricans grew up on that.
Right.
I always tell people, find the similarities instead of the differences.
Absolutely.
Because you have much more in common. You can break bread, and it's a way to overcome the insecurities when you know people's food and their history. I always plate. This is my pet peeve, right? So aquí estás aprendiendo cómo poner el plato. I always plate with height. And now, thanks to the local Chinese joint, someone entre nosotros dos, we have the pork chops, estilo chino. Okay?
Nice.
And then, of course, you just always take a spoon. I like it rustic. Aguacate. And you're going to taste that. So now, let's talk about the first time you overcame it. Because let's face it, kids are cruel.
They are cruel.
But let me ask you this. Kids aren't born cruel. Do you think it's the parents allowing them to be little come mierda juniors?
No, not really. To be honest.
Entonces, ¿qué es lo que?
We all are at the beginning, right? Like, we're just learning life. We're learning what is what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why you look different than I am, right? Like, different colors or skin tone, color, right?
Yeah.
All these things. So I think it's just natural, right?
Fast forward to this day. Is it an asset to be multiracial?
110%.
In what way?
Oh my God. If I go back into my work experiences where, you know, I always pursued male dominating industries, like car sales, fintech, right? And in those spaces, I was singled out, to be honest. Asian Latina, like where else was I gonna find someone else that looked like me and had my culture and, you know, similar background?
Try that first. And while you're trying that, I think the first time is you have either people you know or just people making stupid racial jokes, right?
But I think more than anything, because we are in a melting pot, right? We always try to find
We're
something.
adults now, we know it.
Right.
Pero
Criándose,
we're
claro.
young, it was hard.
Right. You're
Right?
singled out immediately.
So I think at that point, when I started hearing the jokes, you like it? ¿Viste? That right there, little jengibre, cebollín, salsa china y aceite, that is a tribute to my grandfather, Papa Tango. So now I want you to try everything else. So we're going to go to the table. This is a combination of home-cooked meals and also something that you made, or you can buy convenience. Support the community. I'm all about that. So let's go to the table.
Awesome.
Let's keep the tema.
Yeah.
How did you leverage as an adult? Is it an asset to be multiracial?
Absolutely.
In what way? Be specific.
I mean, listen, it starts with our last names, right? It's very particular. And I feel like Tam, is that more of like a Japanese?
No, it's Chinese.
It's Chinese? Oh, okay.
The Nam Hoi Canton, Hong Kong. You know, that part doesn't exist in China anymore. So it's even harder to track back our history, you know?
Tell me, how did you ever feel outcasted when you were growing up? Like, when did you figure out your identity as an Asian Latino?
Yeah, I think accepting the fact that we honor our tradition, our culture, not necessarily through the language, because the Chinese community is a little bit harder than any other community as far as accepting you if you don't speak the language.
Oh, yeah.
So we talk about, you know, the culture and all that, and I want you to eat.
Right.
But to me, the Chinese community is harder when you don't speak it. So how we maintained it was through traditions. So the Chinese New Year, my mom's aunts that were heavily involved in the Chinese community,
Right.
we went to all those annual Chinese New Years, and we learned more of our traditions. And I think as I got an adult, because you can't dwell on the past.
Oh, yeah.
So you realize, okay, somos nicaragüenses con sangre china.
Claro.
No one's going to tell us we're not Nicaraguan. That's what bugs me. Aquí en los Estados Unidos, ¿qué sos vos? How do you identify? Who the fuck are you to tell us how it is to be an immigrant, to be looked upon because you don't speak English?
Right.
So to me, I know who I am, but I honor la sangre china que tenemos.
Claro.
Si alguien me da permiso, si la comunidad china me da permiso usar que I am Chinese, then I'll do it. Pero si no me aceptan, I'm fine too.
You're okay with that as well. Now, what as it relates to like your family and friends, did you have like growing up? Did you pick up on, you know, like friends who were Chinese or Korean or Japanese just because of the way you looked? I mean, I could actually speak for myself. I did. I had Korean friends, Chinese friends, and I was only accepted because I had a Chinese last
So
name.
they didn't accept me. I had the opposite story.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, because San Francisco might be a little different than New York, right?
Right.
In San Fran, they don't play, bro. So, like, I went to Chinese school for a summer.
Right.
They knew, like, first, my name is Armando Jose. It don't get more Latino than that.
Right.
So, I guess if I had to be alone, it would make me feel bad. Pero yo la casa, mi abuela, mi tía, mi primo, we grew up like literally 15, 18 people within 2 houses.
Wow.
Sí, existe eso, but I didn't have to experience it. I had, because it was just your mom and dad that came here, right?
Yeah. Well, my dad was here before, like a year before we
Yeah.
came, and then it was just my mom.
Por eso. So we had 4 or 5 families that came over. So we had a big family, and then we had the cousins, and we had
Right.
extended. You know, in Latin America, after a certain amount of years, they become family. We have massive families. So I think the love was always there, that I see that is missing in today's society.
Got it. So now, I one thing I was curious about was in California. That's where you grew up, right? Was it predominantly Latino culture that you grew up, or
It's very
was
common.
it mixed?
It's very common. No, it's mixed now.
Oh, okay.
Because multi-cultures in America is the norm. Romeo Santos, Puerto Rican, Dominican.
But back then,
Back then, no era tan común the multiracial stuff. So today, it's more accepted. When's the last time someone asked you, you know, how do you speak Spanish? I don't think they do,
no,
right?
They don't.
Why don't you think they ask you?
No.
Because you look Asian, right? To some people. So why do you think they don't ask? Because they don't ask me as much. But I want to know why you don't think they ask you.
I don't know. People do come to me and ask me particularly, like, "Hey, so where are you from?" They're just curious. Like they don't know. They can't pinpoint it, right? As I was growing up, a lot of people did think I was Philippine. So I was like, "Hey, you're right," because it's the mixture of, you know, Spanish and Asian.
They do obviously the way we look.
Right.
But when we walked into China Caridad in Brooklyn, predominantly Dominican area of Williamsburg,
Right.
yo entré, ella no me preguntó. She assumed that I spoke the language.
Claro.
I think a lot of it's the mannerisms. I think a lot of it, you know, I talk about ignorance is a choice.
Right.
Someone has to choose to be ignorant. Just one of the people we met earlier today, Mohalia, Filipino girl, knew about our traditions. And then we thought, oh, how do you know that? Like, even we got caught dumb. She was like, it's called YouTube. It's called
Absolutely.
history, right?
We live in a
So
different era,
I do
absolutely.
think that being ignorant is a choice.
Absolutely.
And so through traditions, you maintain that. Now, how were you treated when the Asian community says you don't speak Chinese? Your last name is Lam. My last name is Tam. Yeah.
So because, like I said, I grew up while I was in college. I had a couple of friends who were Chinese and Korean. And, you know, with Korean it was a little bit different than with Asian people, right? Koreans only want to stick with their own.
Yeah.
Even with Asians, it's like a little bit like, okay, you're crossing the line, right? So the fact that I had a Chinese last name was the only way I was allowed in that circle. Literally, it was, you know, said to me, and I was like,
wish I would have had
wow.
that because no, I hang out ESL with my Latinos, small yellow buses, showing up to school late.
yeah. Think so. Who are some of the people who influenced your life? You know, I am just gonna throw some names at you.
Yeah.
Gary.
Well, Gary is, look, I'm an immigrant, a proud immigrant. Tampoco soy uno de esos pobrecitos que andan pidiendo, quejándose.
Right.
Gary is one of those people that is my mentor, and those are the mentors that don't tell themselves they're mentors, right?
Absolutely.
The guy has integrity, he has family, he's built one of the most fascinating businesses in the country and continues, and he's not content. And I love how he balances it. And I think
How long have you known him?
10, 12 years. But as busy, as successful as he is, and ambitious, one of the best things I admire about him is that he'll drop anything for his family.
That's amazing.
Most people would have egos. He doesn't. And we all have an ego to a certain extent, but he's meant a lot to me as far as what I've become as a person, businessman. You know, then you look at while we're here in Barrio Chino, you know, Cesar's always been a conduit or the OG of Latinidad. When Afro-Latinos were being talked about, I always remember why he was so into it. He's a historian, and you and I wouldn't ask our parents about how Asians got to Latino America or Ecuador or Nicaragua if it weren't for that.
100%.
I think it's important that we always get rooted, because what if we had gone another 20 years without asking the question, ¿Cómo llegaron los chinos a Ecuador or Nicaragua? So it's always being grounded to what I call the streets or the culture of the mud. I like when I hear Cesar do things like that.
What about your mom, your dad?
You know, you look
Do you have
at,
siblings?
Yeah, I have 2 younger brothers.
Oh, cool.
They're both awesome, but my mother and father are as perfect as they come. I always say, es lo mejor que Dios nos dio. Think about it.
La familia, primero.
When they come to this country, look, people come for a better quality of life. People come because of, for whatever reason, and every reason is valid. But our reason was because they saw bullet holes coming from the takeover of the Sandinistas. They came to a country, I know they were probably called derogatory remarks.
Right.
Do you think it mattered?
How did they deal with that? Do you know?
I am willing to bet, how was that, by the way?
It's wild.
You're
almost like...
Yeah. I'm willing to bet that it didn't matter to them. Si alguien lo llamaba mojado, chino, cochino, whatever, they didn't care, because look at the life they've built for themselves. They're retired and they lived the life. They've gone backwards in time. They didn't, you know, nowadays it's easy to get thrown off track. A tweet, a social media post, election deniers, coconuts, and todo eso es parte de la sociedad that always existed, but now it's amplified.
Right. So
in some ways it's harder. But my mom and dad, hold on real quick, my mom and dad are an example of just live to fight another day. ¿Para qué vas a pelear con un baboso? Get your shit done, take care of your family. And then, like, I'm the immature one. I'll go punk gente fea.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love that you actually mentioned that, because in your social media you always talk about gente fea, gente linda, right? And that's kind of like part of your own persona and who you are and your brand. So tell me a little bit more about that and Bendecido. I love those palm pictures when you show up on Instagram. It made me feel good because I'm here in New York.
I had a cancer scare, so every day I remind myself to look up and thank God.
Absolutely.
That's first and foremost. So Dele Agradecido is thanking God for helping me overcome the cancer scare. Gente Linda is like, ESL, I learned a lot. ESL, people got made fun of. Had they not had the confidence that I had from my family raising me in martial arts, then those beautiful people had no chance of surviving because of the bully and ignorance in this country. So gente fea is a way of me saying gente fea is internal. Being ignorant is a choice. So that means if you're ignorant, that's your choice. Being ignorant or racist comes from insecurity. Con tiempo, vamos a darle la vuelta to empower those people.
One of the racial challenges that I had was, walking into a door and someone expecting a Chinese woman coming in, right? Because they looked at my resume and my name is Jennifer Lam.
Yeah.
So immediately the connection is to expect an Asian lady, right? Because everyone's name is
Jennifer, Betty,
right,
Tom.
exactly.
Yeah,
so
Tom. I got you. I'm just kidding.
That's very common, right? So that's what they expected, and they told me that. And they were like, "Oh, we were expecting an Asian woman." So as it also relates to that, diversity and inclusion in the corporate America, it was huge. They tried, they strive for that, and it was hard, right? Because we're all different backgrounds, men, women, right? In the space where I worked in fintech, it was predominantly men. So there were only in the pit it was only like 3 women, and then I don't know, 20, 25 men, right? And so that was huge.
Were you ever embarrassed to be Asian?
Never.
You're strong. At times I was afraid when people would treat me like an Asian kid. I was young.
Right.
But I applaud you for having that strength, because it's very tough trying to assimilate in a different country 3 different things: Latino, American, and Asian Latinidad, So I applaud you for that.
Thank you. I mean, it's when it comes to diversity, I feel that, you know, finding the people that are similar to you is something that we want to do just as humans, right? We want to be able to connect, whether it be, you know, with my Asian community or with my Latin community, right? We find ways of togetherness. And what better way than food? I mean, I think that you've done a great job doing that.
Yeah.
You know, integrating both.
I like to elevate criollo or humble ingredients that come from both of our countries.
Right.
And present it in a different way because it's a conversation starter. The beautiful part of the challenging divided society is that less racism and ignorance will be accepted. It will always exist, but less of it will be.
The corporate world was not really for me, you know, working 50, 60 hours a week, you know, on a normal week. That was quite a bit. And I just didn't see myself in there. Therefore, I wanted to start something on my own. I always wanted to start something on my own. I went to school for business marketing. That's not what I was doing. I was there recruiting in the fintech space.
So you switched,
right? So for me, it was like, hey, now is the time. Otherwise, when?
Yeah, changing it. Being able to change is another quality we must master.
Absolutely.
I got it. Glad you liked it. Got a couple more questions I do want to talk to you about that are important.
Awesome. Let's do it.
Let's go out there.
Hey, so Armando, tell me, what's next? What's your vision about Asian Latinidad? What's next?
I think that uno tiene que soñar que by understanding on how immigrants come to this country or their participation in the world, like we understand how the Black community came, how the Latino community, Latinos came, Latinas, lo mismo con la comunidad china.
Right.
And when you understand how we've come and how we are in society, it's going to do two things, and it's going to be really good.
Right.
It's going to help people have empathy and kindness. Y es lo que yo llamo gente linda. Esa es la primera parte de lo que va a pasar. Lo segundo es que va a separar and help us identify lo ignorante, lo come mierdas, the gente fea, because you're going to have a divide in this country for the rest of our lives. Es como navegamos, right? So when the Crazy Rich Asians came out, when You'll Always Be My Maybe, you know, on Netflix are hits,
Right.
and you look at a superhero that was Asian, we've come a long way in Asian Latinidad. But as you see the growth in specifically the Asian Latino communities, maybe we have an opportunity que sea un poquito más fácil para que la sociedad lo acepte a nosotros y que nosotros no podemos evitar lo que nosotros sufrimos y aprendimos en el camino. So that was my dream on Asian Latinidad. What could happen in the future from projects like this? What would be yours?
I mean, same to me. I feel like to bring togetherness, right? To educate and empower our communities, right? That we can be Asian Latinos y a la misma vez, you know, somos diferentes, pero somos iguales. Siempre hay cosas que vas a encontrar en un lugar que las puedes encontrar en otra, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the mix is beautiful. I mean, it makes us exotic.
Yeah.
Right? It makes us very attractive.
We're like above sevens.
It makes us very attractive.
Yeah.
So, yo pienso que queremos crear algo para el futuro.
Sí.
For the new immigrants to come and come into this culture.
Y los niños que están creciendo hoy.
Right.
Yeah.
So that they don't get bullied, right? So that there's some foundation and education. Entonces, esos niños ya no van a ser vistos como yo fui vista, como tú fuiste visto en ese entonces. So first of all, education, right? And educating, empowering our community that, yeah, we're different, but we're all a community. We're multicultural, right? And then with that, I would love to see like some things like what you're doing with your food, right? Asian Latino mix, and also maybe even incorporate some fashion. I would love to see that.
We just happen to be Asian Latina in a country where we are probably more immersed in our culture, our surroundings. You're fashionable, I'm fashionable. Y lo más que hagamos shows así y hablemos de estas conversaciones, la gente va a ver, somos iguales, tenemos bastante en común. And remember when I said dos cosas, uno se encuentra aquí con los iguales, los similar, y aquí lo come mierda, right? So
yes.
I think Barrio Chino is basically just normalizing or updating people, because we're already here, we've been here.
Right.
Y entonces cuando uno ve una Jen, un Armando comiendo, hablando de negocio, ven a nosotros en otra luz. Y eso es
Yes.
importante, sí, porque uno quiere hacer lo que uno puede ver que es posible.
So what's your plan with Barrio Chino? I just love your vision. You're a visionary, so I feel that you have a lot to give as it relates to culture.
So I'm not a visionary as much as, say, my partner César, right?
Okay.
César es un historian de latinidad, because if you really take the time to understand los colores en nuestra cultura, uno aprende, uno aprecia más. For me, is just to make it where it's acceptable and normal when they see a Jen.
Right.
They see an Armando que is not out of this world. But I'm okay with that, because if we worried about what other people think, we would never take those leap of faith. We wouldn't go through those journeys to help para que los otros aprendan, you know. Entonces, yeah, el futuro de Barrio Chino es que, you know, aprecio a César porque él quiere que nosotros todos aprendamos en todas las culturas, cómo llegamos.
I love that.
Yeah, so to me it's an honor, because I'm sure for you it's the first time you asked your parents about the Asian side, the history,
Of course,
right? Wasn't
yeah.
that was different? I had that with my mom and dad. They looked at me like it was intervention, like I was gonna tell them someone, you know, I did something wrong, or I did drugs, whatever. And entonces, para mí aprender de ese lado de la sangre china nosotros, eso fue algo diferente, que only Caesar can bring the best out, is to recognize where you came from.
Our roots.
Yeah, because I would have been ignorant if I would have been, even you, 20 años más tarde en el futuro, si nosotros no sabíamos de dónde venimos. Because you can't escape what we look like.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean? So that's the plan, man, is to keep on educating, because through education you understand, and hopefully you will develop empathy and compassion for someone. I always say, gente fea, come mierdas, are the ones that make fun of people with accents. Those people with accents, they speak multiple languages.
Oh, 100%.
Just like you, when I first met you, I was like, oh, you must have an accent. I'm just kidding. No, pero gracias.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I'm really honored to be working with you and César. It's really, you know, an amazing project, and I look forward to the future. I really do. I want to see Barrio Chino, you know, develop and be able to see us catapult as it relates to Barrio Chino and Asian Latinidad.
Yeah, esos días de chino cochino over. It's not chino sabrosos.
As you can see, obstacles were turned into a positive. And the call to action is, en ese dolor, dig deeper, because you will find clarity y oportunidad.
Hi guys, my name is Jennifer Lam, and I just want to take this opportunity to thank Armando, Tam, and César Vargas for allowing me to be a part of Barrio Chino. I take pride in being Asian Latina with Ecuadorian heritage, and this project has motivated me to collaborate with entrepreneurs of Chinese descent. It has allowed me to connect with my roots. Our community needs education, community, and togetherness. And Barrio Chino is just getting started. So stay connected with us and stay tuned for more.